So if any of you Canadians have anything you want to contribute, I'd be happy to get comments or pointing me in the right direction, because the US is definitely my area of focus. All right. Hey, Marco. Hi, Crystal. Hello, Whitney. All right, this is awesome. Great turnout tonight. I guess when there's like not much to do out in the world of COVID, it's nice to be able to get on a webinar. At least you can interact with people that way, right? We just got word in Calgary that there's some new shutdown rules and stuff, so, but they're not that bad, I guess. Closing restaurants at 11, that's not so bad, and bars.
Yeah, not terrible.
Yeah.
Could be worse, but that might be coming. We'll see how things turn out.
I know, it could be. Yeah, I was expecting the worst. I thought they were going to close restaurants down right away, but 11's not so bad. I just don't know how these people are going to survive when they have to keep shutting down, and they're already going on reduced capacity. And
yeah, they've already been stressed as it is, right?
Yeah, crazy year.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we'll get started, and any latecomers, that's fine. We can come later. All right, so the topic, you guys can see and hear everything okay? Everything's good? Just give me a nod. All right, perfect. So the reason for this webinar is both for people that are wanting to get into the fix and flip space in real estate investing, but also I know there's a lot of people that I engage with that like the idea of wholesaling real estate, to other investors. So what I'm going to teach you guys tonight is, if you're looking for your own fix and flip deals, hopefully this will give you some strategies and ways that you can analyze a deal to make sure you're making the right offer so that you'll actually make money and lower the risk of losing money on a fix and flip. But also, if you're wholesaling deals to other investors, making sure that you can identify a deal and know how to make your offer correctly so that there's still some room for your buyers, and so it's a good deal for your fix and flip buyers. Okay, so the analysis is pretty much the same regardless of if you're flipping or if you're wholesaling. Just got a few more people that are consistently rolling in, so maybe I'll just hold back just a minute here. I am recording this, so I'll be able to provide the links for you guys as well. There we go. Okay. Great turnout, guys. Glad to see everyone here. All right. So I think the capacity is like 100 people. I don't think we're going to hit that tonight. But just out of curiosity, how many of you here have flipped a house or wholesaled a deal? And if you want, you can put it in the chat, just type it in. And how many of you are here because you want to do your first deal? Mike says he's done one or two. Okay. Mike's more of a cash flow guy, so he's probably maybe done one, right? Want to do your first deal, Whitney? Okay, awesome. And I'd also like to see how many of you, if you just type in either American or Canadian, I'd like to see how many people are in each side of the border. So Michael, you've done a couple flips, awesome. I know Lorenzo, you're looking at wholesaling some deals off the, no, are you wholesaling or are you looking at flipping?
I want to do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So we've got a really good mix of Americans and Canadians. So this is perfect. Okay. So anyways, so that's why the goal is I want to teach you guys how I look at deals. I've wholesaled, probably 30 properties in the US, and I haven't done a ton of fix and flipping. I've fixed and flipped maybe 5 houses myself with my team in the US, but I've analyzed probably over 150, 200 fix and flip deals. Just for wholesaling and for my own purposes. And I still do that every day because my team in San Antonio are looking at getting into flipping maybe in 2021, something like that, maybe 2022. So I'm going to share my screen. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask, or you can post them in the chat and I'll get to them. And you can ask as we go, and that's not a problem. So I'll just share my screen here. Okay, so as I mentioned, a lot of this is going to be American websites and that kind of thing, but the principles apply to Canada as well. It's just some of the ways that you would get your data might be a little bit different. And so that's why I'd like to ask any Canadians in here if you want to chime in on any tips you might have in your own experience for Canada. That would be really helpful for those that are wanting to do deals in Canada. But the principles and the numbers and everything are all the same. Okay, so that's why I wanted to have it a cross-border type conversation. And so I am going to be sharing this fix and flip analyzer with anyone that wants it at the end. So if you go into our Facebook group, most of you are in there already, but I'll be able to post this for you. And it's got a CMA analyzer, which is just a way that you can figure out property values when you're looking at comparable properties. And then I've got the actual rehab calculator here that we're going to be going through. Okay, so I'll share this with all of you. This is one I really like. You don't have to use it, but I find it really handy. So the other thing I've got is 2 deals I've picked from the MLS in San Antonio today, because that's where I invest. And I've got a really good realtor there who's sending me deals. And so we're going to look at one for sure. And if we have time to look at another one, and if you guys want to look at another one, we can look at 2. Okay. So basically, when you're looking at fix and flip deals, first of all, you need a source of deals. And the best way if you're a house flipper, I would say, is get a really good realtor and teach them what you're wanting to look for. Okay. Not all realtors work with investors, obviously. The majority of them are used to working with people that are wanting to buy and sell their own home. And so I would say not all real estate agents are fit for what you're looking to do. And so I would ask other investors in your marketplace, go to meetup groups, whether they're online or in person, if we ever get to online or in-person events again. But a lot of networking, trying to find the correct realtors to start sending you deals. And I think it helps if you find realtors that either work with other flippers or invest on their own, invest themselves, okay? And so I can just show you what I've got set up here with my realtor in San Antonio. These are all automated emails, okay? So you can see not all of these are deals, but we've got a bunch of keywords and different automations set up. So my inbox is full of potential deals to look at. And then the other case for looking for deals would be from other wholesalers, okay? So for those of you that might not know the term wholesaler, it's basically an investment strategy, and I'll just pick one here, this guy, Christopher Campbell. So it's a strategy basically where you're looking for deals, you're marketing for deals directly with sellers. You're trying to find motivated sellers, and you're finding deals and you're getting them under contract. And then instead of buying the house yourself and doing the deal yourself, you're turning around and marketing to your list of investors. So your list of fix and flippers and landlords, and you're marking up the price a little bit, but they're basically taking your contract that you have with the seller, okay? So as a wholesaler, you're making anywhere between 3 and I've seen people make 100,000 on a wholesale deal, but the average is probably between 3 and 20,000 per deal. And so you can also buy houses from other wholesalers, and that's what this is this is a guy that has a house under contract that he's looking to wholesale to a fix and flipper or something like that, okay? So I'm not going to go into in this webinar how to find deals directly, but I am going to look at how to analyze them once you've got a potential deal, okay? So I pulled this one here. We actually made an offer on this one this week, Boonesboro Drive in San Antonio. And so some of you might find these prices crazy low. Others might find them pretty normal, but this is a 3-bed, 2-bath home, 1728 square feet. And I think it's actually off the market now, but it was on the market earlier this week. And I'll just show you some photos so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So it's clean, but it definitely looks dated. We've got that dated kind of shiplap look in the wood wall paneling, dated carpet. So it's definitely needing some updating, but it's not a horrible looking home, right? So these are the kind of deals I like to look for. They're not just trashed, but they could definitely use some modernizing and upbringing. So this is one of the deals I picked. So the kitchen could use an upgrade. It's almost probably rental condition. You could probably rent it out almost as is. All right. So I like to look at the photos, obviously, to see what I'm dealing with. And then I like to look at the realtor comments, just seeing if they mention what's been done or what needs to be done. And so this one just says investor special, and that's one of the keywords we actually look for in our automated MLS searches. But just is waiting for your updates. They don't give a lot. Great bones, mechanicals have been recently updated, roof replaced, and newer AC. So those are good because some of the big ticket items are already taken care of for us, okay? And they're selling as is. All right, so this is great. This looks like a potential deal that we can analyze. So what I would do next is I pull up my handy fix and flip analyzer. And I've already got a few things filled in here just to save time. But basically, you want to put in all your property details. And when you're running comps, I actually send out a list of criteria that you need to get your realtor to use when they're trying to find comparable properties. And the whole purpose of the first step is to figure out what can you sell this property for if you were to fix it up. That's your first goal. The repair estimates and everything else, that comes later, but we need to know what are we going to sell it for if we fix it up, okay? And so I'm going to just share with you, I'm going to pull this up again. Give me 1 second. Here we go, criteria checklist. Okay, so many of you in the Facebook group should have received this or seen it posted, and I'll send it to anyone that doesn't have it. But basically what I would do is I'd tell my realtor, I'd say, look, this deal looks promising, and I'd really like for you to send me a comparative or comparable market analysis. And you have to train your realtors to know exactly what to look for because they might not know what makes sense for you and what you need when they look for similar properties, okay? And so when I'm looking at this, first of all, you want it in the same location, okay? So let's just look at a map view of this property just to get an idea so I can sort of paint a picture here. So I'm just going to copy this, put it into Google. And as far as location, obviously, as all of you know, different parts of the city or market are valued differently, right? Real estate's all about location, location, location. And so you don't want to be looking over a massive area because prices in some neighborhoods and cities can change really drastically from even one street to the next. There's some markets out there where you might have houses on one street that are, 50,000 more or less than the next street over, right? And so you want to obviously get your realtor's opinion or have a feel for the neighborhood as much as you can, and rely on your realtors to help provide advice for you. But in general, what I like to do is I don't like to get comparable houses that are more than, if we can, half a mile maximum. And of course, this is US lingo, but also in the same neighborhood or subdivision, okay? So in this case, I would probably, this looks like this is the Adams Hill subdivision. So I would probably just want to look at comps, if I can, similar properties that sold in Adams Hill, okay? And if not, if we don't have any, then maybe up to a half mile maximum from this property location, okay? The other thing I don't like to do is cross major roads or rivers or parks, because these major dividers can really cause a difference in value in some markets, okay? So I wouldn't want to look at something over across this major highway because this Lackland Terrace area might be completely different, okay? So I like to stay within a neighborhood, a subdivision, where all the homes are similar age, okay? So that's the first thing we want to teach them to do. Just gonna let someone in here. Okay, so that's location. If you can do a quarter mile, that's better, but sometimes you're gonna be in areas where there's just aren't comps within a quarter mile. And you may be looking at a house that's more rural where you have to go out a full mile or maybe even more. So it does depend on what area you're dealing with. So the next thing we wanna look at, once we've got our area pinpointed and teach our realtors to do this, is the size, okay? So this makes sense. People are going to pay more typically for a larger home than a smaller one, right? And most of you have probably heard of price per square foot. And a lot of times people look at houses as, you know, what's the going price per square foot for this type of home. And so I like to look at comparable houses that sold that are within plus or minus 200 square feet, or about 15% of the property that I'm looking at, okay? So in this case, we've got a 1,728 square foot home. And so I like to look at probably 1,500 is the smallest I would look at, and maybe 2,000 at the upper end, okay? And that way we're comparing apples to apples. And I'll show you the comps that we actually pulled in a minute. So the next thing, once you've got similar size homes, is you want to make sure that your realtor is sending you houses that are the same configuration, okay? Adding one extra bedroom or one extra bathroom can change the value substantially. So you don't want to be looking, if you've got a 3-bedroom home that you're looking at buying, and all the comps that you're looking at are 4-bedroom homes, a lot of times people will pay more for a 4-bedroom home than a 3. And this is even more so if you've got a 2-bedroom home. 2-bedroom homes, I would say, are less desirable. So if you're looking at a 2 and then you're comparing it to 3s or 4-bedroom homes, you might be way off in your valuation, okay? So try to make sure as best you can that you have the same beds and baths. The next thing is the like type. So you want, again, it's apples to apples, right? So you want to be comparing your subject property as far as the style of the home. And let's go back and look a little bit more at the outside of it. Oops. So I guess this would be like a ranch, probably. But the big thing, especially at least in the markets where I'm in the States, is a two-story home versus a 1-story home. And what I've noticed in Texas, at least, is the 1-stories seem to be more desirable and have a bit higher price than the 2-story. And that might be market specific, but one of the reasons is because the 2-stories get hotter. The heat rises, and at least that's what I've heard. People don't like the 2-stories as much because they're hotter and you have to deal with the heat. So your market might be totally different. The 2-story ones might be more popular and they might go for more. So you have to know kind of what's in style and what pricing goes with what type of home, you know, what's desirable, what layout is, what style of home is good for your area. And your realtor should be able to help you with that, okay? But you don't want to be comparing, you know, this type of home with a 2-story or something like that. All right. Then we want sale date. So I like to look, if possible, the last 6 months, comparing sales that have happened when you're looking at similar properties in the last 6 months, okay? You can go up to a year, but the longer the period, the more market change can occur during that time, right? Especially if you're in a really volatile market where prices are fluctuating rather quickly in your market. If you're looking at a sale that was a year ago, the market might have shifted and you might be way off in your numbers if you're looking at year-old sales, okay? So again, you want to try and find sales that are within 6 months. And then the other one's features. So you don't really want to be comparing, if your home has a garage and the other properties you're looking at maybe don't have a garage or vice versa, they're not really apples to apples again. So things like garages, pools, maybe a shed in the background, in the backyard, or like a mother-in-law suite, you see those kind of things, or maybe a developed basement. If you're comparing, if your property doesn't have a developed basement, for example, or a suite in the basement, and you're looking at ones that do, well, unless you're going to put a basement suite in, you probably shouldn't be using those as comparables, right? Because they have different value. Just let this person in. Okay, so you want to try to get homes with similar lot size. If yours has a pool, look at houses that have a pool. If yours has a garage, look at similar houses with the same kind of garage and that kind of thing. And then the last thing is condition, okay? So obviously if we're fixing and flipping, then we want to look at homes that have been either recently remodeled by other house flippers or people that remodeled their home before selling them, or at the very least, you want to look at homes that have been really well taken care of by the owners, and they've been making repairs over the years as they've been living in the home, okay? So, because obviously we're going to be fixing up a house, so we want to look at other fixed up homes. If you're trying to decide the as-is value of a property, then you want to look at homes that are in similar state of repairs as your subject property, okay? So it's kind of a no-brainer, but you want to make sure that they're in similar condition. So does anyone have any questions about that criteria or how you might convey that to a realtor or anything like that before I move on? All right. Cool. So what I did is I actually had my realtor pull some comps for this one, and we'll look at these here. So this is what a typical CMA would look like. You can also get your realtor to send you a more detailed one that has photos and that kind of thing. But this is a basic CMA summary report that they might send you, okay? And so typically what you're going to find is obviously the address of the comparable properties. And I always like to look at solds. I don't like to look at active listings because I'm sure you guys have seen people try to get more for their property than it's worth, obviously. I mean, that's a pretty good strategy to list it for more. But they may not sell it for that price. So you can't really look at active listings. And if you do, you want to take them with a grain of salt, okay? Even pending listings where they haven't quite sold, but they've got an offer accepted. So I like to look at solds only. So you can see here my square foot range is between, I guess the lowest one's 1557 up to 1908, and ours was 17, okay? Oops. And then they'll give you the days on market. And so you can see these ones that I think we'll look at them, but I think they're remodeled. They're going pretty quickly in this market, 21 days, 18 days, 23 days, okay? And then they'll give you the list price and the sale price. I'm really just looking at the sale price here. That's my main thing I'm focusing on. But they do have the price per square foot and any seller concessions, anything that the buyer and seller agree to as far as putting in extra cash for closing costs and that kind of thing. And then the closing date, okay? So I think I might have gone a little bit beyond 6 months for this one. So this is all great. You can get a lot of information, but you need to check out the properties first before you make any conclusions, okay? And what I often find when I'm looking at these is you'll typically see kind of 3 ranges of sale prices. Sorry, sale prices are here, aren't they? Okay, so you'll typically see a low valued group of properties, and those are typically your as-is properties, your investor specials, your handyman specials that have sold as is that need repairs. And then you'll see another clump of properties that are the people that they're not like, handyman specials, but they're homes that are kind of just dated and lived in. And then you're going to see the remodels. Okay, so you'll kind of see 3 different clusters of prices. And in this case, we don't really see that. We see 2 groups. We see the 130s, and then we see like 165 to 180. So let's look at these and just see what we're dealing with. Now, can you guys see this pop-up window? I had a window pop up. Are you able to see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sometimes Zoom doesn't share everything. So, okay, I'll make this bigger. Okay, so this is our most expensive property. And I like to look at the ones that are presumably remodeled first. Okay. And I'll pull up these photos so you guys can see. So you should be able to see another window that popped up with photos, right? Okay. All right, so looks pretty good. It's hard to tell sometimes from the outside, but that looks pretty great. Obviously, they got a professional photographer in, which is promising too. A lot of rehabbers will do that. Now, this property, if it had an in-ground pool, I wouldn't have included it, but this is an above ground, and you could probably take it out. In-ground swimming pools, I would compare apples to apples and only compare that with other homes that if my subject property had an in-ground pool. And what you're looking for when you're looking at these remodeled homes is you want to see the level of remodel that the other house flippers are doing in your market, okay? There is no need to put, solid gold fixtures and, you know, high-end granite and cool sliding barn doors in the bedroom and all these handy, cool, you know, trendy things, when every other flipper is just doing basic stuff in your market, because you're just wasting money and you're not going to get extra sale value from that in most markets. Okay, so I know, Mike, you teach this too, is when you're looking at deals, you want to look at, you know, the best flip, and then maybe just do a little bit better, 1 or 2 extra features that are a little bit better than the other, you know, top rehab that you see in that market. Okay, but you never want to overdo it. And I think a lot of new flippers do that. They make that mistake of, they want to just put all this fancy stuff in. They spend all this extra money when they don't need to, and it's kind of wasted. It's not an investment. Okay, so you can see, I mean, this is plain. This is nothing to write home about at all. Very basic. It looks like they do have granite. Very basic cabinets. They got carpet in the rooms. Basic light fixtures, fans. Like, it's nothing great. Okay, so this gives us an idea of what type of remodel to do in this market. Okay, and I also like to read the comments just to see what they actually did to the home. So corner lot, recent updates, and they tell you what updates were done. Okay, so I like to look at that. All right, so that's one comparable property. And let's just look at the, I'm going to go back.
Interestingly, Cal, the one that you just looked at had the smallest square footage of all the properties, but it was the most expensive, interestingly.
Yeah, and you know what, I might be wrong on that above ground pool thing. I've actually haven't looked at a lot of properties that have above ground pools, but maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know if any of you guys know much about pools, especially you American friends, but that could be part of it, because it is a smaller property.
And one of the things, Cal, with pools is in some cities it adds value, in some cities it actually takes away. Like if you had a pool in Calgary, an outdoor pool, it actually brings down the value. So
yeah, well, I have done some deals with pools, and they're a pain in the butt, and they soak up a lot of cash. So I try to avoid them if possible, because a lot of times you'll get a pool and you'll have cracks in it, or you'll realize that you have to fix the whole filter system. And while you're waiting for the property to be finished remodeling, you've got to have a pool guy come out and you got to be cleaning it. So it's just all this extra work that you got to take care of. And I actually like to avoid pools when I can. So, okay. So yeah, this one sold at 179.9 and it's 1624 square feet and sold pretty fast. Okay, so let's look at this next one. So let's just see here the comments. So they put laminate flooring, fresh paint in most rooms, move-in ready. So it doesn't even look like a full remodel. HVAC is energy efficient, less than 3 years old. Water softener, reverse osmosis. Okay, so they've done some updates, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be crazy nice either. So landscaping looks good. This actually looks a little bit nicer almost. Nicer colors, nicer fixtures, nicer layout. Okay, so this one, I don't know if it was staged, virtual stage, it's hard to tell. I think people were living in this home before they sold it, but looks like it's pretty nice. So again, we don't have to do a lot to this home if we wanted to remodel it. There's nothing fancy though. Looks like they got, that's kind of cool, the media room. Yeah, like this is not a house flipper deal. I don't think any flipper would put in a yellow laundry room. So this is, I think, just people that updated their home to sell it. Okay. So that one sold in 18 days and it sold for 166.4. Okay. Price per square foot, quite a bit lower than that other one. All right, so then let's look at the prices. So we got another one that's in the same ballpark here, 165.4. So I bet you this is going to be similar condition and updated or remodeled. Okay, And you can see here, these are all single family homes, kind of the same configuration, give or take. And this is a special dream home is what it's been marketed as. So game rooms, flex room, etc. But it doesn't, kitchen cabinets are nice and upgraded. HVAC is recently replaced. So new appliances. Oh, so this is definitely dated. They didn't do a lot of improvements on this home at all. Old carpet, old wall paneling or wallpaper or whatever it is. So this is what I would call a well-maintained lived-in home. You can sort of use this as a comp if there's no other, fresh remodels, but this is definitely, we would be able to sell our fix and flip probably higher than this one. Okay, we've got a lemon tree. That's pretty cool. Okay, so in that one, price per square foot, 106. So it's comparable to the higher end one. But yeah, we really don't have like a pure fix and flip remodel type property in this group. Okay, we'll just really quick look at these other ones that sold in the 130s just to get an idea of, I'm imagining they're dated and kind of handyman special type deals. So okay, so let's just zoom to the kitchen. I like to look at the kitchen. Yeah, the layout's pretty plain. So you can just get an idea of what's selling in the high 130s. Okay. And then the other one, real quick. This one didn't even have an extra picture, just one. Okay. Yeah. So there we go. It looks like this one had a tenant in it. So it's a rental property. Okay. So some people like to use the price per square foot to figure out your after repair value of what you would be able to sell your flip for. And that can be okay, but I actually like to just find a property and preferably you want at least two properties that back this up that are the most similar to yours in the condition that you're going to be remodeling it to, okay? And so this one was 1728 square feet and they're asking 120 for it, okay? 3 and 2, 1728 square feet. So what have we got here? So our square footage is, here's a 17 right here. This one's 1624. So I would probably put my ARV, we're going to be nicer than some of these, but we don't, you don't know how much a really nice remodel is going to get because there's no comparables. Sorry, I'm looking at the list price again. So I would probably go with this one, 175 to 180 maximum as my ARV, just because we don't have a lot of proof saying that we could go higher. If there was like a pristine remodel in the 80s, in the 180s, then yeah. But I would say I would use one of these numbers, maybe like a 180 at the max, and then hope we can sell it for more. Okay, because you just don't want to overshoot it and then get burned. And I think I've got a question here, or a few here. Oversized lot. Okay, sorry, Michael, I missed your text from earlier or your message. Would you compensate in the ARV when you only have outdated comparisons? So Austin, are you saying like outdated as in the sales were more than a year old? You can unmute yourself if you want.
When I was saying, let me hold on. Actually, I was writing another question. When you
Okay, go for it.
Outdated comparisons. Oh, so what I'm saying is that when you actually are doing comparisons in the area and you can't find anything within the last 6 months or the amount you normally go by, you can't find any renovated properties. What do you do in that instance? Do you like compensate, or do you just try to basically get the best looking property that's closest to the same property that you have, that's the nicest, and then just go with that number? Or what do you normally do?
Well, I would, unless your market is changing really quickly, I would probably stretch it to 9 months, maybe 12 max. I wouldn't go over 12 months. And if it's a fast moving market, then I wouldn't do this plan at all. But if you feel like you can go back 12 months, then you can. And if you still can't find any remodeled homes, then you just got to go with the nicest one, because you really don't have any evidence, right? Like, you're going to be fixing it up nicer than that home, but you don't know what the ceiling is, and you don't want to guess, right? That, you know, your remodel home might go for 10K above that nicely maintained but not rehabbed home, or it might go for 30 more, but we don't have evidence. So I think personally that it's risky to just try and guess, because there's no evidence. And if we're always using evidence and numbers as investors, then the chances of us losing are way slimmer. But if we're just like, oh, this is going to be a 30K above this house for sure, because we're going to do an amazing remodel, well, there's no evidence. So
That makes sense. So okay, and once again too, in that instance, could you expand the actual criteria of the area that you're looking in? And if you do, at what instances would you do that?
yeah, so in this case here, I would also talk to my realtor, because they will know, or they should. And if not, then you need to get them there, or get your boots on the ground, or yourself drive there. But you might be able to expand this into, like, say, Rainbow Hills area. If the homes are the same age, similar, size, and the prices are comparable, right? But you are taking a risk the further out you go. Okay. So you got to be darn sure that there's not like a huge, maybe there's a school district division right on, say, this Hunt Lane here. And so this school district's way better. You got to just watch for those kind of things that could drive the prices in one neighborhood up more than another. So you are taking more of a risk when you do that. But sometimes you got to expand out just to find comps, or just move on to the next deal. Like, the more you expand these parameters that I give you, the more risk. And it might just be smarter to just pass and find a new deal until you're, really knowledgeable, or, you've done a lot of flips and you can afford to take a little bit more risk.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All right. Do you take seller concessions into consideration? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider, and what you're looking at when you're looking at your comps. I don't pay a ton of attention to them, but I mean, you want to at least know they're there and see how much. It's kind of a kind of a weak answer, but I mean, it looks like all of these flips or updated homes had some kind of seller concessions, and so you probably want to factor that into your offer, or to your ARV, that you'll probably have to be matching that, right? Because if your buyer has a realtor that they're using to buy your home, they're going to say, well, look, all the other properties had seller concessions, so why can't we ask you for one, Mr. House flipper? So you might want to put that in there and factor that in, right? You may have to be giving some back. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, so again, I guess, let's see. So these two would probably be our two best. So we want to be you definitely don't want to go over 180, okay? San Antonio is really competitive, so I think I use 180 as my number, okay? Now, just because we have 180 right now doesn't mean we're set. We have, we make our offer, and then we have usually a period of inspection or option period where you can confirm your numbers, confirm your repairs and everything. So I think I use 180 when I analyze this deal as my ARV. So that was the most lengthy part of an analysis. The rest goes a lot quicker, okay? So I'm gonna put, just for now, 180,000. And we've got our square foot in here already, square feet. So this next section is, if you already had a repair estimate by a contractor or something, you could put that number here. But before we go into repairs, I'm going to stop and just look at the taxes, okay? So obviously, one of the big expenses when you own a property is your property taxes. And especially in Texas, where there's no income tax, the property taxes tend to be a little bit higher. And so I think the next step is to go to the tax assessor's website, or whatever website or agency in your province or state has the tax assessment data. Oh, I just got a question here. Yes, I will be putting this analyzer in Facebook. Yep. So again, this is Bexar County, Texas. And your realtor can probably give you this information as well, what the taxes are. But every county has a tax website, and then they have a property search somewhere here too. So here's our parcel search. So we'll just put this in. And there it is. Okay. Now, of course, this is American, but you need to be up and up on what homestead rules are for your state. So in a lot of states, people are allowed to claim one property as their homestead, which means that it's like the place that they live. And if they claim that one property, they get a tax exemption. Okay, so they get a cheaper property tax rate than if it was your second property or a rental property. So because we're not living in the home, we're going to have to pay full amount of taxes. And usually they'll give you, where is it here? Here it is. So they'll say taxes with the current exemption. So he's only paying $373 a year, whereas we have to pay $4,186.72. So make sure when you're looking at this that you're getting the accurate amount if you're owning this as a non-homestead. Okay, and this is a USA only. Do we have anything like that in Canada? Do you guys know? I don't even know for taxes. If it's your main residence, I don't think so.
Not in Alberta. Not
Yeah.
that I.
Yeah.
Seniors, I think that you get $500 off.
Okay, so when you're requesting this information, just make sure that you're getting the actual full tax rate and not one that the owner's currently paying, because that you can fall into a trap that way, and you'll be off on your holding costs and closing costs. So this has a spot for annual taxes, and then it breaks it down into monthly. And the reason we want monthly is because we want to know how much we're going to have to pay while we own the house, right? Now, some places in both US and Canada have either homeowners association fees or condo fees if it's a condo complex, okay, or some kind of maintenance fee. So we want to know about that too, just to make sure that we know all of our costs. And one way I find is in the actual listings, at least in the US, if you look at the sold properties that have sold, they often will say how much the HOA fee is right in the listing. And you can assume that yours is going to be pretty close to what the similar houses were. So we'll just for saving time, let's just assume that there's none. I don't see anything here, but let's just skip that, okay? But that would be a cost that you'd have to pay while you own the house. And sometimes it's monthly, sometimes you pay annually. And if it's an annual payment, then it would be prorated, right? So you just have to pay at closing the amount of HOA that would have been incurred while you were the owner of the property, okay? Whereas if it's monthly, then you got to pay it monthly. Okay. So then insurance, you can get a quote obviously before you close, and I would call at least 2 or 3 different insurance companies for a quote. But for now, you can set your own number for what makes sense in your market, but I just use 300 for insurance and utilities. Okay, so this is water, electricity, maybe mowing, maybe snow removal, gas, obviously. So whatever your holding costs and utilities that you'd have to pay while you own and are remodeling the house, you need to factor those in per month, okay? So this number might be different for you in your market. And then there's a spot for any extra costs as well. All right, so based on this, our total monthly holding cost to have this property while we're remodeling it is $649, okay? Okay, so now the big thing is repairs. And the way I have this set up for you guys is I've got some basic guidelines, and the goal with this whole sheet is to be able to move quickly and make as many offers as you possibly can on deals so that you can get a deal, okay? So if you're in a very competitive market, you want to be able to fire off offers daily, as many as you can, or, you know, like if it's 1 a day for you, if it's 5 a day, if it's 10 a day, whatever it is, you want to be able to go through these quickly, okay? And so this is set up with some basic numbers based on the type of remodel that you're going to do, okay? And these numbers are, I've talked to a lot of house flippers across the US, and these are pretty standard for most markets. They hold up pretty well in the US. But what I would do if I were you, and especially in Canada, these numbers are going to be different, is meet up with some general contractors, sit down with them, take them for coffee or Zoom them or whatever, and just pick their brains and ask multiple and say, look, if we were going to do a lipstick remodel, and if you hover your mouse over this, it'll tell you, so this is just carpet, paint, maybe a nice piece of granite in there, you know, your light fixtures, just basic stuff that like rent ready kind of a remodel, lipstick. What would you charge per square foot on average? Okay. And this doesn't have to be perfect. We just need something to go by so we're close. Okay. So in this market, it's about $14 a square foot. Okay. A standard remodel would be replacing flooring or tiling, adding new kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets, your appliances, maybe repairing drywall or even some major wall repairs, removing the popcorn from the ceiling. So one kind of way of picturing it is a nice house that your mom could live in, okay? So maybe not your tenants, but a little bit better than that, right? That you'd want your mom to feel happy in, okay? Then we've got your damaged or vandalized homes. And so these are ones that you need to replace all the mechanicals, your HVAC, a lot of drywall repair. Maybe there's, you know, spray painted and that kind of thing. You got to replace your electrical and plumbing, your water heater. So all these really big ticket items that you're going to have to repair. That's the number you want to find here for your market. Okay. And then there's another number here for an upper end remodel. So this is something in, you know, the A markets where nice finishes and, you know, all your trendy things are going to apply because all your competitors are putting these in. So stonework, tile work, high-end cabinets, high-end appliances, all your, you know, high-end bathroom sinks and things like that. So that would be your upper end remodel. Okay. I would say that the one we were just looking at is not an upper end at all. Okay. And then you've got your complete gut job. So this is something where you're stripping it right down to the studs. Having done a lot of deals in Houston, flood houses, there's are many of those, maybe a fire damaged home or just something that you're completely stripping it down. Okay. And then I've also got a line for any additional expenses that you're maybe adding on. So maybe you're adding on a full bathroom or something like that. There's a line for that. Okay. So all you have to do with this spreadsheet, if you're going to use it, is just put a Y in whichever column you're going to, or row that applies. Okay. So in this case, we're somewhere between a standard and a rent remodel in this market. I'm going to say standard, but it could be debatable. Okay. And so that multiplies $18 by the square footage. And now that I see that number, I'm actually I'm actually second guessing myself. I don't think you need to put 31 in there. I think I'm going to kind of go in between and put a. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a based on the comps that we saw, the nicest ones? Would you say this is more of a lipstick, or would you say it's a standard? Any feedback? You think it's a standard? Okay.
I think it'd be more of a lipstick.
Yeah. Well, this is what we'll do. We'll split the difference because we also have this feature here that if it's an older property more than, I can't remember my formula. I got to look at what the formula was, but basically older properties, I'm adding an extra 3,000. I can't remember what the cutoff date was, but this home is 47 years old. And so it's adding an extra $3,000 on there because obviously older houses have more problems, right? So we'll add that in there and we'll get to 27,000. And we'll make sure this says no. Okay. So again, if you're wholesaling, this matters even less because your buyer, who's a house flipper, they're going to run their own numbers, right? But there are a lot of really bad wholesalers out there, unfortunately, who fudge the repair estimates like crazy and are way off. And I think if you can pride yourself on being pretty accurate, your buyers will love you for it and they'll trust you and they'll want to buy your houses. Okay. So I do think it's important to be as close as possible, even though your buyers are going to run their own numbers. Okay. Okay. So we've got 27,000 as our number. All right. Don't be afraid of this because we can, once we get it under contract, if we're doing the remodel, we're going to get inspections done on the property. We're going to get at least 3 contractor quotes. Okay. So this is just to make your offer. You don't have to be scared at this point. You just want to get these offers out of the door and get them accepted. Okay. So this is our number we're going to go with. Okay. So now we got to talk about, once we own the property, what does our project details look like? Okay. And unless you have done, a ton of flips and you know exactly how fast your team can work, I always put 6 months for a flip. Okay. And if you feel like you're going to be even slower, then put even longer time. But I like to use 6 months with the goal of finishing in 3 to 4 months. Okay. But that way, at least you're over budgeting in case something else goes wrong. You've got a little bit of a cushion there. Okay. So I use 6 months, and that's used to factor in your holding costs. Okay. And where's the holding costs? Well, we'll get to those. But the next thing you need to factor in is how are you financing this deal? Okay. So the way I like to do my fix and flips is I use a hard money lender. If you've got your own cash to do the whole deal, that's great. You wouldn't have to fill this in, but I use a hard money lender typically. And so the homework I'm giving you guys, if you don't already have a hard money lender that funds these kinds of deals, is to start looking around your market, looking around your city, and finding companies and lenders that do fix and flip loans as a lender. Okay. Do you guys all understand what a hard money lender is? Or would you like me to clarify that? Maybe I just will. So you've got your typical, go to the bank, get a mortgage on your house, right? Like an A lender. They're looking for longer term projects, right? On home mortgages. But you've got this other class of lender that they call hard money. And a lot of times the way they look at deals is they're not so much looking at you as a borrower and your credit score and your income and all of those things that a normal lender would when you're trying to get a mortgage for your home. They're more looking at the numbers of the deal. They understand that, what you're trying to do. They look at, again, the ARV, the after repair value. They look at the neighborhood, your repair estimates, and they're judging this loan based more on the property and less so on the borrower. And as a Canadian who invests in the States, I can't qualify for a lot of mortgages because of my Canadianness. But hard money, there's a lot of them out there that don't care because they're only looking at the deal. Okay. So one thing I do is I like to call my lenders in my area and ask them for their criteria. And I just happened to get an email tonight that I wanted to share with you, because this is kind of what they look like. This is what the terms, and this is how they market themselves. So I never used Blue Melon Capital, but they somehow got me on their mailing list. And they've got this 100% financing for fix and flips. Okay. And they even tell you kind of how they operate and what their terms and conditions are for their loans. Okay. So what I would challenge you to do is find these companies in your state or province that will lend where you're investing and ask them these questions. Like, how long are your loan terms? Will you do it for a year? Was it only 6 months? What's your interest rate? What interest rate do you charge? How much do you loan up to the value of the home? They call it loan to value. So in this case, they will lend up to 70% of the after repair value if you've done 10 flips or more. Okay. Otherwise, they'll lend up to 65% of the after repair value. So if I'm right and our ARV is 180,000 that we can sell this house for, I could probably get a loan with these guys up to 65% or 70%. Okay. And then all these lenders have an origination fee, and that's a lot of times how they make their money. They charge, in this case, 3% of the loan amount as an extra fee that you have to pay at closing when you get your loan. Okay. So, and they've got a bunch of other stuff here as far as credit scores and things they look at. So these guys do have a program where they do look at your credit. But these are the kind of questions you need to ask these lenders about, okay? And once you have a rough idea, then you can fill this part in, okay? And so I know for me and my lender that I like to work with, they will go up to, let me just see, 85% of purchase price and repairs, okay? And so one thing I forgot to mention is we start this off by putting their asking price in, okay? And so in this case, they were asking 120. I don't think we're going to be offering that, but we'll start there, okay? So we've got a 120 purchase and 27,000 repair. So we're up to 85. Again, you need to talk
Hey, Cal, I think you're breaking up.
in order to. Is it okay? My connection? Did I freeze?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
seem better now. You're frozen there for
Okay.
a little bit.
Sorry about that. Okay. So did you guys catch how I got this number for the hard money loan amount?
You might want to do it over. It was
Sure.
kind of breaking up there.
Okay, sorry about that. So I know my lender that I like to use, they will lend up to 85% of purchase price. So right now we'll start with 120 because that's what they're asking, and repairs. Okay. So I use 120 plus 27,000. So they'll lend me 125,000 on this house. Okay. I also know that they charge what we call points. A point is a percentage of the loan. So 2% of the loan amount is what they charge as a fee. Okay, so that's where this 2,500 comes in. Okay. I also know that they will do 12% interest on this loan. Okay. So I got that factored in. If you know of any other fees they charge, you can add those in. Okay. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I've got access to cash, but it's going to cost me 10 grand to access this money. Okay. It's a lot, but it's allowing me to get this deal done. Okay. And they can fund a lot of my deals. So that's the amount. And then we use 2% of our purchase price as our closing costs. And that's pretty standard across the US. It might be, again, different in Canada. But you can talk to your realtor about that as well, and your real estate attorney that's closing deals and that kind of thing. But we use 2%, okay, for closing costs. And then this factors in our holding costs, our utilities, and all of that stuff over 6 months that we factored in, our taxes, insurance, all of that, okay? So that over 6 months is going to be just under 4 grand. And that's also including the mortgage payment. Okay, the hard money loan payment. So that's our purchase and our financing. Okay, but then we're going to sell the property, right? So we're going to need to factor in our closing costs when we sell. And I like to use a realtor to sell the property because they're trained to do it. I don't have time to be worrying about listing a house myself. So we typically pay in Texas, it's 6% to the realtor for commission. And then there's going to be another 2% in there for your closing costs, title insurance, that kind of thing. Okay. So this is set for 8%, but you may need to change this if it's different for your area. Okay. And if you need help, I can help you with the formulas. So look at all these costs that add up, right? So then this next line here, this is your total project costs or cash that you need to bring to the table if you're the fix and flipper to close this deal, even though you're using a hard money lender. Okay, so you're going to need to have just, well, 38.5 basically in cash in order to buy this property. Okay, the way we have our numbers now. And unfortunately, so here's our potential profit. So we can make $2,000 whole dollars on this fix and flip if we pay 120. Okay. So if you're good with that, then have at her. You can take this deal, I'll wholesale it to you. But that's not very good, right? And so you're going to have your own numbers based on your risk tolerance and time and amount invested in that kind of thing of what makes a good deal for you. But I like to make at least 20,000 on a flip or 10% of the ARV, okay, whichever is greater as a minimum, okay? So in this case, our after repair value is 180. So I'd want to make at least 20 on this deal, if not more, okay? So right now we're standing to make $2,000. And then it calculates investment, okay? So that's not very good. So, and I guess I'll also say this is your potential return on investment, and then this is your annualized return. And the difference between the two is if this is based over a full year. So if you did 2 of these flips in 1 year with your 38,000, then you'd be making 11% return. Okay, but that's not good. So we have a problem. We need to lower our price, our asking price, okay? So let's just real quick. We think our repairs are pretty decent, but let's just change our purchase price to 100, okay? Now, again, our hard money loan is going to change a little bit because we went down. So it's going to be 85% of 127. So I could get $108,000 loan on here. Okay. So that changes our costs quite a bit. And now our potential profit is 23,874. So, or no, yeah, sorry. And we need 33,000 to bring to the table, okay? So in this case, I'm okay with that. I know my market's competitive, so that's probably close to around where I'm gonna be making my offer, okay, is about 100. And if you're a wholesaler, right, so your goal isn't to fix and flip this yourself. Your goal is to get a good deal under contract and then market it to your fix and flip buyers that you have in your buyers list, okay? So you need to make sure there's enough room so that they are buying a good deal, but you also can mark it up and make a nice chunk of change on the transaction as well, okay? So in this case, if this is a good deal for your buyers, you're gonna have to market even lower in order to make a profit on it as a wholesaler, okay? So you might look at this and say, okay, I'm gonna sell it to my fix and flip buyers for 100, but I'm gonna offer 90, okay? So that's where you factor in your profit as a wholesaler. Once you figure out what the good remodel price is, then put your profit into the deal as well, okay? So does that make sense? Okay. So we're almost through with this. The last thing though that I've built in here is I actually like to do my fix and flips by bringing on a second lender, a private lender. So any kind of, or joint venture partner, but basically private money, other people's money, okay? So I'm constantly looking for people that want to do fix and flip deals and come on as a private investor, that they don't want to do the deals themselves. You know, maybe they're a busy doctor or something and they've got a lot of cash and they're not happy with their investments and they don't have time to go find and do fix and flips, those kind of people, right? So this is what this part's for, is if you have a private lender that you want to bring into the deal, you can put their information in, their loan criteria in as well, okay? And so what this automatically does here on line 37 is it takes this estimated cash that you need beyond the hard money loan, right? We talked about that, the cash you're supposed to come out of pocket for. It assumes that that's your loan that you're going to be borrowing from someone else, okay? And again, we typically pay 12 to 14%. So I've got the interest rate I would be paying my private lender, okay? And then it calculates the total cost and interest you're going to be paying them for this project over the 6 months. And we even borrow that out typically. So your actual hard money, or sorry, private loan from your investor or partner, or however you're going to do the deal, your private money, you're going to be taking about 36,000 and paying them 12%. Okay. So when you factor that in, this is the final profit if you're using a private lender and a hard money lender on the same deal. Okay, so it brings your profit down a little bit, but instead of coming out of pocket 33,000, you're now coming out of pocket basically zero. Okay, and so that's an infinite return for you. Okay, so that's what that number or this section is all about. Okay, so I think we're pretty good here. Our offer price is going to be 100,000. Okay, we're going to get 108,000 hard money loan, and they're going to have first lien position. Okay, on the house as far as securing the loan to the property, they get first position. Okay, our private lender, say our doctor, for example, they're going to invest 36,000 into our project. Okay, and they're going to take second lien position. Okay, behind our hard money lender, and that just means that when you sell the property, or if there say was a foreclosure or something, the first position, whoever's in first position gets paid first, then whoever's in second position gets paid second. Okay, and the way this works out, it's about $200 cash out of pocket. I would just disregard that. I don't even know exactly where that's coming out of. Our repair cost is 27,000. And we expect to be able to sell this house for 180,000. Okay, and so our profit, depending on how we do it, if we use a private lender or not, is about 23, 24, 21, somewhere in there. Okay, and then if we're going to wholesale, we're going to make that even lower in our offer price. Okay, so that was a lot. Do you guys have any questions about any of this, or money, or finding deals, or any of this stuff? Repairs?
Well done. That was really good. The one thing that I think I might comment on is the earlier talking about finding comps.
Yeah.
Would it be better to expand the home size and see if there's different analyses you could do on, say, maybe smaller square footage and larger, and try and bookmark in between? Would that be safer in the same neighborhood versus going to, longer than 6 months and going to separate neighborhoods? Like, what's your thought on that?
I would, some of the other flippers that have done deals maybe can chime in, but I would actually rather go out a little further and maybe older sales than to start getting way off in square footage. Just because they're, at least in my experience, larger homes are, the difference is more substantial in the size of the home than it is the distance. Okay. Of course, if you're one side of the freeway is a completely different high-end neighborhood, obviously that's wrong, right? But if it's generally the same kind of homes and the same kind of class of neighborhood, you're probably better off expanding out a little bit. You guys agree? Mike, do you agree? What do you think is more?
A little bit of both. First of all, if I saw that there's no homes that have sold in a long time, I'm thinking, okay, what's going on that no homes have sold in this neighborhood? So that would be my first concern. So I'm going to look at, is that typical? Is this an area where maybe people tend to stay in their homes a long time and nobody's selling? But if it's an area where there's typically lots of sales, then I'm wondering why. Maybe this home's an anomaly. Maybe it's bigger than all the other ones, or maybe it's smaller than all the other ones. Yeah. So you have to be really careful going too far back in time, because obviously if you look back to a year, pre-COVID, a year ago, that was a lifetime ago. It's a whole new normal now. And a year from now is probably going to be a whole new normal from today. So you kind of have to just kind of look at, well, has much changed in the market in the last year? Yeah. So a lot of it's going to, be determined by what's gone on. Has the market gone up substantially? Has it gone down? Has there been a major event like a recession or pandemic, which normally doesn't happen? But so those are different things. I'm going to analyze things differently depending on the circumstances. But I'm always worried though, if I see no sales for a long period of time, then I'm doing a little detective work and saying, well, why haven't there been any sales?
Yeah. And also, like, obviously a realtor should be able to help you with this. They should have some market knowledge if you've got a good one. And what was the other good point, Mike, you made? I had it and then I lost it. Yeah, but definitely if you're looking at a house, and I've seen some houses where it's like, man, there's just no comps. Like if you're looking at an anomaly house, like today I was looking at one and it was a 4-bedroom, 1 bath. Well, that's weird. There's no comps for that. So you could either plan on, converting it to a 3 and 2. If that's your plan, then you can use those other 3 and 2 comps that are in the neighborhood. But if you're going to sell it as a 4 and 1 and there's no other 4 and 1s in your market, then there's no comps for it. So that's a huge risk to me. Another thing is, say you've got a weird looking house and none of the other houses look like that in the neighborhood, you're also taking a risk there. So you want to be finding deals that are similar to the other houses in the neighborhood. And you really, unless you're really experienced or really confident, you don't want to be toying with unknowns, right? So if you can't find comps, just find another deal. Don't stretch things too far, or you're just taking on more risk. Okay, unless you got just a smoking deal, right? That that no matter what, you're going to make a profit. But if you're trying to make your max possible offer, then you got to be careful. I got a couple questions in the chat here. How do you find your team? Do you only operate in one city? Great question. Mike, you can agree with this. We look for warm climates, first of all, to get away from the snow. Sometimes it's a little bit trial and error. I like to recommend that if you know someone in a market, like say you have a relative or someone you really trust, like a good friend, coworker, that can at least be your eyes, checking on your projects for you, that's honest and they don't have skin in the game. That definitely helps to have the start of your team until you're able to build. But it's also, calling different people that you're going to need on your team. So calling realtors, calling contractors, getting referrals from people that you already have in your network, seeing what's working for other investors, and like, what attorney are you using? What title company, what contractors, asking for referrals and what's working for other people is a good way to do it. Mike, I know you've built lots of teams. Any other?
One of the good things is, in this business is that A players only hang out with A players. You're not going to find a really good realtor who's going to recommend a really crappy contractor that doesn't show up. And so quite often when you get 1 or 2 really good people on your team, they can kind of fill in a lot of the blanks for you. Realtors are going to know good inspectors. They're going to know good title companies. So most of these good people tend to congregate together and work together. And so it's not as difficult as you might think. It's not like you have to go find one really good realtor and one really good property manager, one really good of everything. You just have to find one really well-connected, awesome person for your team. And usually they've got the rest of it to fill in the blanks.
Yeah. And it's ever evolving too. You might have a team that's working okay, and then you end up finding someone better and you replace them, or they kind of fall off, so it's like kind of an amoeba. It's always growing and changing over time as you find better pieces to fit your puzzle. I just think you got to start, and it's gonna change and grow as you go. So, I only operate in one city. I don't like the idea of being in multiple areas, because then you've got more teams to manage and more markets to know. I like to just focus on one place. Do you adjust the calculation for places like California where prices are higher, like 500K to 700K properties? Does the percentage the hard money lender will lend adjust from 65%, for example, where 65% would be 325, and say the rehab is 70K? So do the ratios change based on the market? Well, I haven't bought any properties in California. Here in Calgary and in places like Vancouver and Ontario here in Canada, they're kind of the same price points. And that's the reason I leave and go to the States. I don't like to be in those price points. But I would talk to your hard money lenders that are lending in that state, okay? Because they might have different percentages. I really just focus on Texas. And so I'm calling different lenders, every week I try to call at least one lender and see what their rates are for Texas, right? So I would recommend you do the same for California, because they may have different ratios, okay? And the other thing I like to factor in is, like, if it's a more expensive property, everything is more expensive, right? Your materials are more expensive typically, and your risk is heightened, right? So you want to have a bigger spread in those bigger properties than you would in a smaller property, okay? Because your risk is higher. Your holding costs are higher, your hard money payments are higher. So if you mess up, it can hurt way more. So you need to have a bigger spread to cover those potential risks and things that pop up. All right. Any other questions from anybody else? Cool.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So on the, I know you're saying you're talking about hard money lenders as well.
Mhm.
And you said that, I was looking at the actual, the requirements on the email, and it was saying that you need, 5, 6, 7 flips, or basically experience under your belt. So does that automatically disqualify somebody who doesn't necessarily have experience, but maybe has like a team they work with that's done fix and flips? Or what's like a loophole, or if there is anything to still work with a hard money lender?
Yeah. Well, I think in that email, they had a zero, it was like no money percent funding. So they'll cover 100% of purchase and 100% of repairs. So basically they're saying you don't even have to have any skin in the game if you can prove to us that you're a competent house flipper and that you've got good credit and all those things, right? So I would imagine that they have another tier of that they would do for someone like yourself if you're newer, or people that don't have those credentials. They'll probably have a different tier of how much of the ARV that they'll lend. They might have a higher interest rate, things like that. And that's why it's really important to talk to as many lenders as you can in your market, because you might find some that are more affordable than others. But also that way you can see which ones you'll qualify for based on your own experience and finances and that kind of thing. But I mean, everyone starts, and these guys are lending. As long as the deal's good, they're going to lend on it, even if you're new. Okay. So there's lenders out there that will. They just might not give you the best rate until you do a couple deals with them. So,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is to shop around and do your best to do your research as far as finding good potential hard money lenders that fit my criteria as far as like experience, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And do your research too, because there's a bunch of scams out there too. So you never have to pay anything up front to get them to look at your deal. If they say like 3%, 100% financing, no points, like if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. So I would actually ask other investors in your market, like Facebook groups for one, places like Bigger Pockets, that kind of thing, where there's investors hanging out. Ask them, hey, have you ever done a loan with this lender? Are they good? Are they legit? That kind of thing before you commit to anybody. So,
Okay,
yeah.
one more question too. Also, I've seen that on the calculations, you have that part. So the part that says that cash to close, right? What exactly does that cash to close cover?
Okay, let me share my screen here. Good question. So the way this works is this spreadsheet anyways, is it sums up everything. Okay, so it takes into fact your purchase price. It takes into account your closing costs, takes into account your lender fees, like so your points. It takes into account your repairs. Okay, so then it looks at your hard money loan. Okay, obviously that hard money loan is going to be covering most of that, but there's going to be some left over, and that's what that is. Okay, and also it accounts for your holding costs, because I like to borrow out or know what my holding costs, make sure I have them in my possession, either from my lenders or in my own bank account, because you don't want to be like playing it month by month and be like, man, I hope I get paid because I got to pay this mortgage and the electricity bill on my flip, right? You want to make sure you have the holding costs ahead of time. And so that's also factored in. So cash to close factors all those things. It just doesn't cover your sale costs. So like your realtor fees, your sale closing costs, because that usually comes out of your sale price.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more questions. This is great, guys. Great questions. All right. Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed part of the question, Michelle. Is there any concern about doing flips right now with uncertainty in the market? Last time I was in the market was in 2007, and the market dropped fast and got hit hard. Yeah. Like, Michelle, are you in California?
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I've seen in California is a bit of a roller coaster market. And right now with a lot of uncertainty, I'd be pretty cautious for sure. I know a lot of people are even leaving California California is always one of those roller coaster markets where if you get in low, you can ride it up really fast, but you can also ride it down really hard. So I'd be very cautious in California, especially right now with COVID and all the uncertainty with so many things. I would be probably holding off on fix and flips. For me personally, I'm looking every month at the market data, and I'm looking at the days of inventory, or sorry, months of inventory in that market. And so what that is you're looking at the number of active listings on the market at, say, the end of the month, okay? And then you're looking 30 days back, how many sales of single family homes did you have in that last 30 days? And if you take the ratio of active listings to sales 30 days ago, that ratio is your months of inventory. And so if you're looking, if the months of inventory are creeping up and there's more and more houses on the market and less sales, that means that it's going to be very hard for you to sell your fix and flip because there's a lot of supply on the market, right? And not a lot of demand. So that's where you get really risky. Whereas right now in San Antonio and Austin, where we're looking at, in Austin, it's less than a month of inventory, and in San Antonio, it's less than 2 months. So as long as I'm watching that every month, I'm okay with doing some flips. But some of you, if you're brand new, this is probably not the best environment to be dabbling in that unless you're really watching the market closely.
Thanks. They are 1 to 2 months.
What's that?
Inventory levels are less than a month right now.
Yeah.
But it is higher price numbers, so it's easy to get hit hard on that. So
yeah,
I'm gonna look at
like you might be okay with doing the more lipstick quick remodels that aren't too intense, but something big like a big gut job, I probably wouldn't want to do. And also make sure you're checking the months of inventory every month, because if that starts to change, you don't want to be stuck, with a brand new flip going into something like that. So, yeah. All right, good question. All right, so as a new flipper, would you recommend to stay away from properties that are total rehabs, ones that are trashed and need lots of work? Yes, definitely. Because you're going to need to build your teams. You're going to need to find the right contractors. And so if you can just kind of ease your way in with some of those light, paint, carpet, appliances, those kind of easy finish remodels, those are the ones you should start with. Anything where it's a complete gut job, or you're changing the configuration or adding bedrooms or things like that, I'd wait until you have a really solid team, you've got a good market condition before you dive into something bigger like that, for sure. Awesome, you guys. All right, Daryl's got a good one here. Once you resell the property, are there any capital gains implications? Yes, there are. And I would definitely talk to your accountant before you get into this business. And if you're doing cross-border like I am and numerous people are, make sure it's a cross-border accountant that you're talking to, not just one in your own country. But yeah, you definitely want to understand, number one, tax implications of flipping versus being a landlord, for example, and also your entity structuring so that you're covering yourself in case of lawsuits and things like that. You want to make sure you have the right structure. And again, it's different if you're American than Canadian and which country you're investing in. So I would definitely make sure you sit down with an accountant and an asset protection attorney to set up things the right way. All right, good stuff, you guys. So I think, how are we doing for time? And that's probably a good place to stop. I had another one to review, but that took longer than I thought. So we can always do another one of these, but I did want to mention that as far as hard money lenders go, for you Canadians, I'm actually going to be bringing on a Canadian hard money lender to do a webinar later this month, and I'll post in Facebook about that. And then for you Americans, I don't want you to miss out. I do have a pre-recorded webinar that I did with a hard money lender a few months ago, a US one. And so I'm going to also post that so that you guys each get your hard money fix. Okay. And maybe bring on him again live for a Q&A later, maybe in January. So that's coming up this month as well. All right. Any questions by anyone else but anything before we say goodbye?
Really quick, I had a last question.
Sure.
When I was looking at your repair costs, I assume that because you know how you had the lipstick, you had the standard renovation. those actual numbers that you multiply by the square footage, the dollar per square foot,
Yep.
does that, is that applicable, you think, across all of the states, or do you think it would vary in across the country?
Well, I derived those numbers. I first got those numbers from some other investors that are doing like 30 to 40 flips a month and in multiple cities. And then I have used those same kind of range of numbers in Texas, and they seem to hold pretty well. Okay, so you can start with that, especially if you're just making an offer, right? Like, here's the thing. If you're off, you get it under contract, right? Then you go and have an inspector go in, and you also get 3 contractor quotes. And if they're like, dude, you're like 30,000 off, well, then you know you've got a problem, right? So I would definitely, start making offers and also talking to contractors, picking their brain and just trying to get a feel for like, what do they think those numbers are based on their own costs, and updating your sheet according to your market.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Cal.
Yeah, no problem. Great questions. All right. Well, sounds good. I'll let you guys go. Awesome turnout. Great to meet some of you and see you guys. And I hope we can do this again soon. I will post the calculator and that CMA list as well, criteria, in our Facebook group. And if you have any questions about any of it, just post in there and I'll make sure I address them for you guys. Okay.
Right on.
All
Thanks
right,
so much.
guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.